They're getting a lot of money from other areas, aren't they? They've got huge natural gas resources.
Yeah, well, you can talk to the oil companies about that. What do you call it? I was there in 90, 91 and 92, and from what I heard, and this is my credible sources, was that the Burmese government actually pulled in the oil companies, Caltex, whatever, whoever was there, right? They said, right, you go in that direction and you look for oil there. When they know full well there's no oil there because they've already had surveys done. So they extracted millions and millions of dollars from them, plus all the services and everything like that. And then Caltex and all that, before I left, they started packing up. So the gas pipeline between Thailand and Burma, I think it's up and running now, I'm not too sure. But yeah, they'll get their money from there. But the biggest one is, money laundering in Singapore.
And how do you stifle that, though, Howard?
US. The US has enormous power, not overtly, covertly. They can use the war on terror to cut all that off. They're doing it in other countries. They can do it very easily just by doing it not diplomatically, but behind the table, talking to the Singaporean government, talking to the governments that are involved, and getting them involved.
Right.
And saying that, well, you're with us on the war on terror, well, this is part of it.
Howard, thank you very much indeed for that. Zoya, the finger of blame almost from Howard pointing back at the US. They're the one country you feel are actually doing something.
Yeah, the international community is very divided in responsible action on Burma. What we've been asking for many years is that the United Nations Security Council to set up a time frame and take effective action on Burma and have a binding resolution. And we need the Secretary General and the United Nations to have a comprehensive action on Burma. We want the international community to put more pressure on the regime to force them to involve in the dialogue with opposition, the NLD, and also ethnic nationalities.
Okay, well, look, Zoya, we're going to come on to the UN and the role it can play a little bit later in the programme. Thank you very much indeed for that. I think also on the line now is Wesley Robinson, calling in from Indiana. Wesley, this issue of sanctions, how you apply them, can you apply them? Can you persuade big companies, for example, not to invest?
Good afternoon. Since 1988, the U.S. has implemented economic sanctions against Burma in response to human rights abuses. Yet it does not take a professional to see that the sanctions have very little effect on the decisions of the SPDC. Clearly they are not concerned, or they would create change. And since the dictatorship has continued to fund their 400,000-person military, 70,000 of those being children, since the implementation of sanctions in 1988, then I believe it's safe to say that sanctions have failed. Do I believe they will work? I do. I think that the SPDC should be made poor, just as made the Burmese people poor. And I think it is important because over 50% of their budget goes directly to the military killing machine.
Right.
An investment in Burma requires a 51% partnership with the junta. Yet in order for the sanctions to work, the loopholes that big industry use to weasel their way around them, they really need to be closed. And the United States and the nations of the world need to put a stop to those industries.
Right. Well, Wesley, thank you very much indeed for that. We've got a couple of emails very much in line with that. Slightly different directions, though. This one from Sydney in Australia. The sanctions will only work if China shuts off the border and enforces the sanctions, since that's the main trade partner. I have family in Burma, says Simon. Nearly all are saying the sanctions are hitting them hard. And from Thant Zin in Burma as well, sanctions have helped very little. The military government doesn't bother as long as they're getting millions of dollars from China and ASEAN, the Asian countries, of course. I wonder whether these nations have any intention to see democracy in Burma. Thant Zin, thank you very much indeed for that as well. Let me just remind you, this is Have Your Say that you've joined us for. It's live around the world on World Television, World Service Radio, and on our website as well. That's bbcnews.com have your say. We are discussing the situation in Burma following recent protests there, and joining me here in the studio is Dr. Zarni, a visiting fellow at the University of Oxford, also an independent Burma analyst. Thank you very much indeed to all of those of you who've been in touch with us. We'd like many more of you to do exactly the same thing. This is how you do it.
You can phone Have Your Say on 442087495353 or email us. The address is haveyoursay@bbc.co.uk. You can also send an SMS text message to 447736 100 100. All of those details and information on other ways to get in touch are on our website, bbcnews.com/haveyoursay.
Now, you probably heard a moment ago Zoya Fan, who is a refugee based here in Britain, talking about the role of the United Nations. Well, certainly international pressure on Burma's military-backed government does seem to be mounting after this recent crackdown on the democracy protesters. And a little bit earlier in the week, the BBC's Lise Doucette spoke to the UN's special envoy to Burma, that's Ibrahim Gambari, and she asked him about the UN's stance now on the regime's crackdown.